Psalms number 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Verse number 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. This morning I want to talk about how to make it through the valley. How to make it through the valley. Amen. With 2,310,572 people infected by COVID-19 and 158,691 persons dead from COVID-19. We are right in the middle of the valley and the shadow of death.
Yes.
And as pastor, preacher, and resident theologian, my job is to reframe those things that happen in the natural and frame them in the light of their spiritual relevance. So I've come this morning as a spiritual reframer and a theological reconstructor. But I don't come with hammer and nail or with paintbrush and pail or saw and power tools. All I have is the Bible. Yes. But I believe that the answers are in the Bible. I believe that the answers to the questions of life are in the Bible. I won't be before you long. I don't have an elaborate, drawn-out sermon with theological and life-applicable points. I just want to talk for a few minutes out of the Word of God. What I've come to realize is too many people are ill-prepared to make it when valley situations arise. Yes. And the truth is, COVID-19 is a valley of the shadow of death situation. Yes. And people are gathering in their living rooms and kitchens and dens this morning, but they're gathering under pressure. And they gathered wanting to know, is there a word from the Lord? Yes. Well, there is a word from the Lord, and it's in our text, a text that is so familiar that I was really ashamed to read it to you. But I had to read it to you because the Lord, that's all he gave me. In this text, we run into a man named David. Now, you remember David, don't you? Yeah. David is the song-writing, slingshot-toting, giant-killing shepherd boy from Bethlehem who would be king. And if you remember David, you also remember that David is no stranger to valley experience. Yeah. David knew about difficult times and how to handle him. He struggled with sin and pride in his own life. David had children out of wedlock and affairs with married women. His children got into trouble and turned on him and did unspeakable things to each other. So David knew about the valley. And this pandemic has brought us face to face with the valley and the shadow of death in our lifetime. Anybody ever laid awake at night because of this valley that we're in? Anybody ever tossed and turned because of this valley? Anybody scratched their heads and pulled their hair because of this valley? Well, I just come to tell you this morning that you can make it through the valley. David said that there are at least 3 things you need to understand in order to make it through the valley. The first thing David shows us is you got to own up to where you are. That's good, that's good, that's good. You see, when you're in the valley, the worst thing you can do is try to hide it and act like you're not in the valley. Don't try to pretend that you're not in a mess when you are in a mess, or act like you're not in trouble when you are in trouble, and trouble is everywhere. Or don't try to act like you don't need help when you do need help. You see, the doctor can't write you a prescription if you don't tell him where you're hurting. He doesn't know where you're hurting, and if he doesn't know where you're hurting, he can't make the right diagnosis. And if he makes the wrong diagnosis, chances are he'll give you the wrong medicine. So if you're going to be helped, you've got to acknowledge exactly where you are. You got to call it what it is, and what it is that. Look at what it says in verse number 4. It says, yea, though I walk through. Yea, though I walk through what? Yea, though I walk through the valley. David was willing to acknowledge and confess where he was. David was not ashamed and was willing to admit that he was in a valley situation. The reason why so many people go crazy and lose their minds and have sleepless nights is because they're trying to hide the fact that they're really in the valley. Well, I've come this morning to put the skunk on the table as people of color. COVID-19, we are in the valley. We live in environmentally unfriendly communities filled with toxic waste. We work on frontline occupation. We have less access to health care, especially in South Carolina, where the Medicare expansion was turned down. We make up 12.1% of the U.S. population, yet 30% of COVID-19 patients are African American. In Wisconsin, African Americans make up 6% of the population, but 40% of COVID-19 fatalities. In Louisiana, African Americans make up 32% of the population, but 70% of the fatalities. In South Carolina, African Americans make up 28% of the population, but 56% of COVID-19 fatalities are African Americans. Black New Yorkers are dying twice the rate as white New Yorkers. Church, we are in trouble. And when you're in trouble, you need to cry loud and cry regular. So don't be afraid to say that the COVID-19 is a valid situation for African Americans. You got to be able to admit that you're in trouble and admit that you have problems and admit that you can't handle it by yourself. You got to admit where you are and seek help. Back in biblical times, when ships were constructed, they were constructed with what's called helps. Now they didn't use the helps all the time. What the helps were ropes. And when the crew saw an approaching storm on the horizon, they would install the helps. And it worked like this. One end of the helps, the rope, will be tied around one end of the ship, and the other end of the rope will be tied around a diver. Now the diver would swim under the ship and take the rope to the other side and tie it to the other side of the ship and pull it down tight. Now this was done all along the length of the ship. And it was done so that when the storm hit, the winds and the waves beat against the ship. If the nails gave away and the pitch broke loose from the ship, the helps would hold the ship together. I don't know about you, but every now and then a valley will hit you so hard and so regular that the nails will give away and the pitch will come loose on your ship and you feel as if the ship is about to come apart. But I thank God that I have some helps on board. And every now and then I just have to holler, help. My money's acting funny. Help. My job situation is not good. My child is in trouble. Help. My body is sick. Help. I got trouble in my home. Help. Outside influences are taking over. Help. Inside trouble is about to tear me apart. Church, sometimes you just have to holler. Help. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. And you ought to just holler help where you are. Even in the living room, at the kitchen table, just talk, just holler help. Help, this thing is too much for us. Help, because I can't see my way clear. Help, I'm at wit's ends and about to lose my mind, and I just need some help.
Yes. Amen.
Stop letting stuff keep you up at night. Get down on your knees and tell God that you're in the valley and holler out for help.
Yes.
Then get up off your knees, get in the bed, and go to sleep.
Amen.
Number one, when you're in the valley, own up to where you are. Number two, when you're in the valley, be mindful of valley activities. In other words, you got to be careful how you spend your time while you're in the valley. Amen. David said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. David understood, first of all, that he was in the valley, but he also understood that the valley was just a temporary condition. David said, I'm not going to allow my attitude and my behavior to turn the valley into a permanent dwelling place. I'm not going to allow the fear of the valley to paralyze me, because I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Yes. Some people get stuck in the valley because they allow the valley to paralyze them. Yes. That they get in the valley and can't move and can't think, so they get stuck in the valley. David said, I know I'm in the valley, but the valley can't hold me because I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I know I'm in the valley, but the valley can't imprison me because I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I know I'm in the valley, but the valley can't keep me because I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Yes. Now the reason why we keep putting one foot in front of the other is because God is trying to take us somewhere. Amen. God does not want me to hang around and stay in the valley, so I got to keep moving and keep putting one foot in front of the other.